subscribe.
Hey folks, so here is part 2 of the Coraline. Part 1, I did the labeling of those drums right there, and there's a banner in the upper right corner if you want to click on that to see part 1 so you can watch all these videos in sequence. But in that video I did the drums. In this video we're going to focus on the cigarette that I built or made and measuring out the foam diorama. So to begin with the cigarette, I just eyeballed this, man. Michael's, or actually Walmart, sells these little wooden sticks, little skewers, little round rods of wood in various sizes. And I bought a pack that I thought was close enough to resemble, the roundness of a cigarette. The circumference, would that be the circumference? I don't know. But, and I, cut a piece off with my X-Acto knife. It's a real technical procedure here, but it's cool because it really looks like a cigarette. But I cut the little piece off that I think is going to be about the appropriate size, and gonna fit the scene and fit in her mouth. Unfortunately, Coraline right here, she has the perfect mouth for a cigarette. And I don't smoke, but I just sometimes think making these action figures look bad is fun, man. Coraline lends herself really well to being a girl with the flippant kind of attitude. I don't know, but at any rate, so I'm going to get some paint out of my bucket here, which is why I'm out of frame for an extended period of time, and probably should have added some speed ramping in here. Here I come, but I'm getting a sanding block. And you can use a little emery board for this also if you want a little, nail file with the sandpaper on it, emery board. But I just sort of take the end down so that it, doesn't look like a dang piece of wood in her hand. And then, she articulates so well, her joints are so well, but they pop out pretty easy out of socket. So I had to put her arm back into her elbow. Dang it, Coraline. So anyway, I put the piece of wood dowel, up near her hand, and I kind of just make sure everything's gonna look right, and then I put it up in her mouth, and I try to decide what corner I want to put it in, and I have to think about it for a second. She's gonna be right-handed, so we're gonna put it, in the side of her mouth that corresponds to that. So I'm gonna file or sort of whittle the end down here with my X-Acto knife. That way it fits in her mouth tightly. And there's a taper to it, so it doesn't look like, if I did a close-up photo of Coraline with this cigarette in her mouth and both ends were the same width, it would look really weird. So I whittle it down so there's a natural taper to the end of it that's going into her mouth, and it ends up fitting nice and secure in her mouth. And see, I play around with the side of the mouth that I want, and I'm like, nah, I don't want it on that side, because if she's going to be right-handed, it's got to be in the other side. And I'm just trying to fiddle around with what's going to look best. See, I'm not a smoker, but, what hand is going to work here. And her right hand, if you're standing behind her, her right hand is the one that looks like it would hold the cigarette most appropriately or realistically in this, with this action figure. So I mess around with it here for a little bit, just decide what works good. And I ended up, like I say, going to use the right hand and the right side of her mouth. And yeah, see right there, I'm talking about, that hand sucks. Can't smoke with that hand, man. That's a hand that's open for gripping something, not a cigarette. Anyway, so now what I have to do is think about, okay, how is she gonna hold this cigarette? How do people hold cigarettes? And since I don't smoke, I'm like, okay, here we go. It has to come up toward her face like this. So I'm just making sure everything fits. The width of the cigarette looks good, the length of it, the roundness of it, the shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and get a paint marker out, and I'm just going to, this is hard to hold because it's so dang small. So I put a needle in it and attach it to a wire and a paper clip and or a clothespin. Now I can paint this thing with these paint pens that are really cool. Paint it all white. Then I'll get some a brush and I'll paint the bottom of it with a nice gold and a brown. There's a little dab of brown, and a little dab of gold, and will paint the filter part of the cigarette that goes into her mouth, and it makes for a really nice little effect. See, I've got it on a needle there so I can hold it. My chubby little fingers and that little piece of wood is just too small. So I put it inside the clothespin and I brush a little bit of orange on the tip with a fine brush. See, look at that. That looks like a cigarette, man. Man, this stuff is fun. It's really fun. So now I have to figure a way, okay, how am I going to keep her hand up there in that position? Well, crazy glue, man. Crazy glue will do it without a problem. So I first crazy glue a little bit on the end and put it in her mouth, let it dry. And then there's a lot of tension between her elbow and bending it all the way up that far. So when I do crazy glue her hand, it's not going to stay naturally if I don't crazy glue her hand to her face. So I've got to crazy glue her hand to her face. But look how cool that looks, man. Perfect face, perfect expression, perfect mouth expression. This doll was made for this shoot. And many more. I love this doll. She is top heavy, so if you're buying her to do some stuff like standing poses and stuff like that, you really got to work with how you pose her because she's top heavy. And that was a chicken nugget. Got to have chicken nuggets while you paint fake cigarettes on action figures. So anyway, we dab a little crazy glue on there, man, and hold it up to her face. Now I have to hold it there for a couple of minutes because it really does, it takes a minute to dry. And so it takes a couple dabs of crazy glue, and I don't want to put too much because I don't want it to run down her face, and then she has this drip of glue on the bottom of her face, and it becomes visible in the photo. So we just hold it here and, wait till I think that it's long enough for it to dry. But look, I mean, that's a good pose. That's really a nice, finished result for this cigarette right here. And, in the computer, once I actually do the photo, you can see that it's glowing on the end and everything like that. I mean, I did that with the color dodge adjustment layer and in Photoshop, and so it makes it look like it's glowing, so it's really cool. Then I just added some smoke. But yeah, a little bit more glue is going to work here. If in doubt, just add more glue to everything. And I want to keep my hand with the glove well away from that area because it will peel the blue of my glove off and it will stick to her face and I will ruin the doll. How do I know this? I've done this before. So anyway, learn from my mistakes. But, it's a process, and this is, this is part of the fun of it. Yeah, it takes a long time to do this stuff, but if you do it over the course of a few days, which is what I did in building this set, I did it over the course of a few days, getting off work, coming home, doing little bits here and there, then it's not such a long process. So anyway, we've got the cigarette made, and I'm just kind of playing right here and using my imagination and just kind of, checking how things might go and sitting around the barrel there and giving her a little fake pose with her legs crossed and stuff, just letting my mind wander for a minute with where I think this is going to look good. So I'm happy with that. We're going to move on to the foam. Now this pink foam is the kind that you buy at Home Depot. I'm going to measure it out. I'm trying to find the center to put a door. Okay, so this is 12 inches long. So I make marks at thirds. I make a mark at 6. No, this is 24 inches long right here. I'm sorry. So I make a mark at 6, 12, 18, and 24. Okay. And so then I make some lines going down. I just divide those in half also. And then I make some more lines going, going vertical. And what that does is it's going to give me a center of a door so that I can make the lines and cut. And you'll see all those marks up there, like I say, right there. And there's a dot corresponding on the bottom, and I'll just make sure everything's lined up, and then I'll just run down it with my ballpoint pen a little bit, a couple times. And then I'll stand it up and I'll just eyeball it and I'll put the doll there and I'm just kind of squaring it up in my mind and making sure the proportions and the heights and things and the widths look right. It's not a science. You don't have to measure it and it has to be all perfect. Get out your compass and your azimuth and your digital angle finder. I'm not building a house. I just want to make sure the doll looks good in the doorway. Okay, so, and that's what we're doing. there's my door. We're going to go ahead and, you know, I'm going to poke holes in it with a little wooden dowel. That way my blade has a little place to go in. I thought it would be a good idea at the time, and I guess it worked kind of well. But, you know, I'll run down the edge in a few passes. Don't think you got to cut this in one pass. It's a few passes that are gradually deeper until you run the length of that X-Acto knife blade. Okay? And, you know, don't think you got to make that all in one pass, because you'll end up tearing the foam. And make sure you use a very sharp blade. I had to change the blade here just to prevent the foam from tearing, because that foam does wear a blade down pretty quick. But at any rate, here's a cool trick too. Once I go and do the top half, you know, the top side, I'll run the blade down it, you know, until there is no more blade, no more depth to it. Then I'll flip it over. I'll push the blade through. It'll poke out the other side, and I'll mark it with a marker. And I'll do the same on the other side. Blade's poking through. I'll mark it with a marker, and now I have a straight line to where I can cut through on the other side and meet my line, so that I get a pretty decent line. Because the X-Acto blade isn't long enough that I can cut through all that thickness of foam and you know, just one pass like that. So I've got to make a few passes on one side and a few passes on the other side, and then it'll snap out. And so that's what I'm doing. I'll wait for that blade to go deep enough, and then I'll poke just a very, very tip where you can't see it, but you can feel it with your finger. Then I'll put the little mark on there with the permanent marker, and I'll make my line, and then I'll cut again. And so it's just a little trick that I use to help me get some doorways cut out. And here we go. You know, sometimes you got to wiggle and finagle it and loosen it a little bit. But there we are, man. We're at the point where this thing is going to pop out. I'm just running back through my lines, you know, and it will snap out here. There it is. Ding, ding, ding. There's the doorway. And then you can run through here with a little block sander if you want, a fine grit sander, and just kind of clean it up a little bit, just so there's no little, you know, scraggly, stringy, you know, stray pieces hanging in there. Just kind of square it all up with the little sander if you want. Probably do it outside, because that purple foam dust gets everywhere. Don't do what I do and do it inside the studio. I know not to do it, but I do it anyway. So door fits good. We're looking good. I'm happy with that. Now we're going to get on to the roll-up door part of it. Just cut you a piece of cardboard. This is just a flap off of a box. I'm going to try to separate so that I can see the corrugated part inside. I'm going to take one of the facings off. And that's all this is. It's kind of a pain in the butt, because it doesn't all come off like you'd like it to, like in one big, nice, long, even, clean peel. No, you're going to work for this. You're going to peel it, and you're going to peel it, and you're going to peel it some more. And then you're going to keep peeling it. And then you're going to be left with this. But you get you the end of a little thin paintbrush, or a wooden dowel, or even the cap of an ink pen. And I'll show you a trick. We'll outline this. We'll make a nice square, straight line of the outline. Then I'm going to get my chopper that's covered in lots of other stuff, because I'm messy. Then I'll use my blade, and I'll cut really nice, clean lines with this blade instead of the X-Acto knife, because I just like the way this thing cuts, man. It's like a machete on a hinge. It's super cool. Now that we've got that, let me show you how to clean this up. See, nice square. It's all flush and even on the sides. We're going to clean this up by running that little paintbrush end through each groove, each corrugated little groove in that piece of cardboard. And yeah, it is a long process, and I don't know a faster one, but this is the one that gives a good result. It's really the only way I know to do it. And so if you want to get the results, you got to put in the work, man, like anything in life. I sped this up to like 800% so we could save ourselves a little time. But you see all the little pieces of cardboard that I'm making the piles out of? Yeah, those go in the trash. They're good for nothing, except, you know, you got to get all of them out of there and pick them and run that little brush, you know. And you can use an ink pen, you can use a little wooden dowel, something that's not going to tear the cardboard. It's going to slide in there pretty easy and not tear anything. Now that that's all done, I'm going to show you another trick. There's still some little scraggly pieces on there. You could see some little fine, little, small, little parts that stick. Get out that sanding block. Use see those little things in there? I can't get all those out. I can't get those with my finger or anything. So we take the very corner and run it through each corrugated groove and knock them down, okay? And that's the best way to do this that I have. Another way, by all means, share it with me. But, you know, I'll just take very lightly and knock each one of those grooves. I'll knock the edges of them down a little bit. You don't want to go too fast or with too heavy a grit and tear it or put a hole in it. You really just want to go through there lightly with the very corner of that sanding block. And get in there, and I keep looking up because I don't know if the camera's on. It's voice activated, and I'm talking sometimes during this, or somebody's talking to me, and then it'll turn the GoPro off. But anyway, so yeah, this is just a really cool way to be able to clean this up. You know, you've got two edges there. You can do the front edge or the back edge, and it produces a really nice result. And in the next video, I'm going to show you guys, you know, how I paint this and spray paint it and paint highlights on there and make a really cool looking garage door out of a piece of cardboard and a piece of pink foam. That's pretty cool. And it's pretty easy, you know, and, you know, it's part of the process. It adds to the realism of the scene, and it's not hard. This stuff isn't hard, you know. There's tons of YouTube videos on YouTube on how to make dioramas and different things like that. I'm not so much, you know, into showing how to make dioramas because I don't really make dioramas. I make modular walls and pieces of textured background to shoot action figures in front of. I don't build dioramas. Gosh, I don't have the patience for that, you know. Some of those guys, man, create some fantastic foam dioramas that I couldn't even begin to plan out with expert precision how they do them. But this is not what I do. I'll build a big wall, put some cool details on there, some signage and things like that. And because the main thing that I do in my photography that sets my photography apart is the lighting. The lighting, the angle, the photography part of it. And if you can do good photography and good lighting, you know, you can have the viewer's eye go anywhere in that scene you want. And the actual background doesn't have to be that great, you know. Fortunately, because mine aren't. But I know how to take a picture, so, you know, that makes it, you know, more tolerable. But anyway, so we just add some glue on here. You know, you don't want to plop a big old bunch on there so it runs out the sides when you go to press the piece of cardboard onto the foam. You just want a nice light coat. And then, you know, get it on there. And then I'll brush it with a paintbrush just to get it nice and spread around in there. I'll get it right up on the edges and stuff like that. And what it also does is it helps it, when you brush it, it just seems like it makes it more tacky because it's a thinner coat. And so, you know, it takes less time to dry, it seems like. So I'll just brush it with this little fantail brush here and get everything where I think it's going to, you know, stick evenly throughout the whole piece of cardboard on the foam. And you could use spray adhesive also, but I find with spray adhesive, I mean, it's not always the best for this kind of thing, because when you bring the door in and out of the diorama, I don't hot glue or tape the doors in there permanently. So the more you take it in and out, you run the risk of, if you're using spray adhesive, that cardboard is going to get caught on something and it's just going to peel off one day. And so anyway, I just use glue so that way you don't have to worry about that. But at any rate, and like I said, just get the glue all the way to the edges. You know, and you can hold the piece of foam with a stick pin or something like that. Not me, I'm just using my fingers because I work messy, so that's how I am. I'm the kind of guy that buys all the stuff to get organized, and I have fun buying all the tape and everything to organize, and I never organize. But anyway, so this is what I've got going, guys. I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to let it dry overnight. Follow me in the next video to see how I paint this, and I begin to build and paint the wall and finish the scene. So be looking for that next video. Follow me on Instagram at insightful_imagery, Facebook at insightful imagery, my website also at insightfulimagery.com. Check out some really cool toy photography videos I do and have them posted. The final prints available for sale posted on my website. And look forward to the next video, guys. Like I say, it's going to be part 3, and I'll show you how I wrap this scene up, and I get some LED lights, and I wire them to batteries, and I create some really cool effects with just 2 simple 3 volt 3 volt LED light bulbs and 1 lume cube, man. We'll show you how you make this thing really pop and look cool. So let's get going to the next video.